New videos every day.
I'm going to talk about happiness and one of the limitations of biological psychiatry. Now, I'm not an expert on happiness, but I think I can point you in the right direction. There are certain things about happiness that we can say for certain. So long has the quest for happiness been pursued that it's one of our inalienable rights in the Declaration of Independence. Inalienable means that which cannot be taken away by anyone or anything. For all intents and purposes, happiness and depression can be considered complete opposites. You certainly aren't going to find a happy person that meets all the DSM requirements for a depressive disorder. Psychiatry doesn't seek to create happy people. Psychiatry simply seeks to cover up, subdue, and minimize psychiatric symptoms. And this puts limitations on what psychiatry can do. Psychiatry doesn't seek to create happy people. It just covers up their symptoms. Another way of looking at it is people set goals. Sometimes they achieve their goals, and sometimes they don't fully realize it. Sometimes they make it halfway there, but they're still making progress. So say someone set the goal of climbing a mountain. They may not reach the summit, but they'll make it halfway there, and that's progress. In a lot of ways, psychiatry sells itself short because it's trying to treat symptoms rather than creating happiness. And you may treat a symptom or two, but that's not going to provide you with happiness. Another way of looking at it is in the New Testament book of Luke. It says, "I tell you, keep asking and it will be given you. Keep seeking and you will find. Keep knocking and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds. To him who knocks it will be opened." All this to say, a person will not find something without first seeking after it. If you do not seek to be happy, you will not find happiness. So what does this say about psychiatry? If your goal is to mask symptoms, you can't possibly expect to achieve more than masked symptoms. There's more to happiness and well-being than being symptom-free. There are a lot of unhappy people in the world, and they aren't even mentally ill. So psychiatry, with its goal of symptomless yet mentally ill individuals, does not create mentally well individuals. Psychiatry never claimed to cure anyone, and as a result, they don't even try. So controlling symptoms is not about mental wellness, it's about mental illness. So what about happiness? You could arguably say that happiness is a cure for depression. So how does one find happiness? One thing is for certain, if you don't have happiness as a goal, you're not going to find happiness. So first off, you first have to decide that happiness is your goal. Even if you don't reach your goal, if you make it halfway up the mountain, you're still making progress. So if you're unhappy but you make it halfway, you're making a total life change in the right direction. For me personally, in times in my past when I was depressed, I was focused on the negativity of the circumstances of the situation. And what I did was look at my purpose, what I wanted for my life, the goals in my life. And then what I did was work backwards to see what I could do today to work towards those goals, to make those things happen. And I was no longer depressed. I wasn't focused on the problem, but I was focused on working towards a solution, toward my purpose and toward my goals. The next thing that you need to know about happiness is that a person without purpose, a person devoid of any goals, is utterly doomed to depression. A person devoid of purpose, what would they do? Sit at home and watch reality TV shows all night, perhaps? Happiness seems to be dependent upon achievement. And in order to achieve, you first have to set the goal to achieve. So the next thing, no matter how difficult it may seem, is to find a purpose. It doesn't matter so much what that purpose is, but the fact that you have a purpose that you're striving for. If you want to be happy, set some goals and have a purpose. I have a really good friend. He is always seeking the next high. He's addicted to cocaine. And during the cocaine, he feels really good, but then he crashes. And sometimes he'll try to fill it with alcohol or with promiscuity at strip clubs, or he'll just sleep for a really long time. But he's always looking for the next high, and he crashes in the next high. And as a result, he is $200,000 in debt, has a hard time keeping relations with anyone, and is one of the most depressed people that I've ever known. The next thing you need to know about happiness is that short-term gratification rarely leads to long-term happiness. A person without purpose is little more than a hedonist. They flit around day to day looking for anything that makes them feel good. This could be anything from drugs to gambling, promiscuity, pornography, overeating, and all of these things oftentimes lead to a path of personal ruin. Now, mind you, I don't want to seem that I'm preaching, but most religions do consider these things immoral because quite observably, people get caught up in them and their lives are ruined in the process. So you see, short-term gratification, although pleasurable, is not a solution to long-term happiness, but a sure road to destruction and depression. Now, the next thing to know is that people cannot be happy unless they find things to be interested in. One of the DSM qualifications for major depressive disorder is markedly diminished interest or pleasure in all or almost all activities most of the day, nearly every day. So you see, if you're interested in things, you can't have major depressive disorder. Now, I'm sure many people think, well, when I'm depressed, I don't find anything interesting. And I can't find anything to be interested in because I'm in a depressive mood. Now, that's fair enough, but let me point out, if you don't try to find something to be interested in, you're not going to find anything interesting. This is where the cliche comes from. If you're depressed, find a hobby. Psychiatric drugs, controlling symptoms. Actually doing whatever you have to do to find something to be interested in could actually be your cure for depression. One of the things that I did that was like a volunteer service that made me feel really good was my son's best friend's father had an aneurysm. And so for their entire year of kindergarten, I picked him up and I took him to school every day and brought them home on days when he was in the hospital or he was sick. I helped take care of him, and he lived with us part-time. And it was something that made me feel really good about myself during a time in my life when things were not that great. The next thing you should know about happiness is that it seems to be tied to a productive life and helping others. Oftentimes, people have jobs where all they have to do is show up to work. But unless you feel like you're accomplishing something, you won't find your work satisfactory. So in order to be happy, you should seek to help others. Perhaps you could get a volunteer job. You could babysit a friend's kid. You could walk a dog. You could volunteer at a retirement home. Helping to serve others will provide you with happiness. At times when I'm down, a lot of times I'll take out a journal and a pen and I'll start writing out my feelings. Sometimes I'll intentionally rhyme them or not, so they become poetry, or they become lyrics. Or I'll sit down at the keyboard and I'll close my eyes and I'll play whatever comes to me, whatever I'm feeling, capturing those emotions. Sometimes it's just music, sometimes I'll put the words and the music together. It's a place to release what I'm feeling, to communicate what I'm feeling, to get across my emotions, whatever they are, and it's very cathartic, it's very healing, and I'm creating a work of art, and it always lifts me out of my depression. Creativity is a place to put all of your energy. It's a place to focus. It's a place to find purpose and to place your goals. And being creative, you're placing your thoughts and your energy into that source of your creativity. It's definitely a great source of happiness and therefore relief from depression. So I just want to reiterate that there's great joy in creativity. Instead of moping around in your sadness, paint a picture, learn to play an instrument, make YouTube videos, write poetry. Creativity is happiness. So to recap, you will not be happy unless you strive to be so. People without goals and purpose are doomed to depression. Short-term gratification rarely leads to long-term happiness. You cannot be interested in something and depressed at the same time. Being productive and helpful increases self-worth and happiness. Attempting to overcome depression by simply attempting to eliminate your symptoms will not make you a mentally well person. If you'd like to achieve more, you must strive for more. Happiness does not come from taking a pill. Your recovery depends on more than taking a pill. Depression and unhappiness are conditions which can be easily improved. One can come up with over 1 million things that could potentially improve the situation. So pick something and improve it. I hope you find true happiness.